I really had to do it in the first months of my mandate. Every time it was the same message. It is urgent for the European Union, for our values, for our interests. My first thought was, this is physically impossible. My second thought was pride. There's so much passion here, such a strong wish to get things done, to improve EU's standing in the world. And you have faith, and it transpires across the globe. The European Council on Foreign Relations published results of a survey last month. India, South Africa, Brazil, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, these are just some of the countries where citizens believe that the EU will have more global influence over the next decade, where the belief in the EU's capacity as global actor on par with the US and Canada is stronger than what citizens from many EU countries feel themselves. This is the power of our flag, wherever it is in the world. It is the freedom, dignity, equality, prosperity. It is the power of attraction. This is our strongest tool. And there is so much we can do. This is what I want to talk about today. I have 5 priorities. When I spoke to you on my first day, I told you that the teams comes first. You are my priority number 1. Again, I want to welcome the new Secretary General and your Deputy Olaf Skog. You both bring so much experience to these posts and everything we need in new foreign policy that delivers. As for any truly effective team, we need the pull in the same direction. From ambassadors to attachés, when you carry the European flag, you carry a responsibility. Our plan is to grow Europe's reach, and here our delegations must reflect our priorities, interests, and ambition on the ground. The EU around the world must be the EU we want to see in the world, the antithesis of the autocratic axis forming today. The EU pushing forward cannot mean reducing the reach of our network across the globe. This is the opposite of what I want to do. Dear ambassadors, no matter where in the world you are working or how far you are from Ukraine, it is important that we all understand what Russia's intentions really are here. While you are my top priority, Ukraine needs to be our top priority. Because Putin wants all of Ukraine, and it is not his to have. He's not concerned about NATO. If he was, he wouldn't be pulling his troops from the borders of NATO to fight in Ukraine. He's more concerned about the expansion of democracy and the values the EU stands for. The problem is that Russia is fighting against us, a few hundred kilometers from our borders. Their missiles and drones have already crossed ours. We have to help to end this war. But for peace to endure in the way that Ukraine deserves, we must push Kremlin to change its goals. The only language they speak is strength. This is why I welcome the US commitment to peace through strength. Europe is already economically strong. The EU has the strength and the means to outspend and outproduce Russia. What we need is political will. And with our allies, we are even stronger. Our collective GDP with the UK, US, and Canada is 25 times larger than that of Russia's. We must all be stronger on Russia, sanctioning those who help Russia keep its war machines running, blocking profits from oil and gas that directly support the state budget. Our sanctions are working. Russia's economy is struggling. We cannot loosen the grip now. We also have to be stronger for Ukraine. The EU is Ukraine's largest overall donor. We have contributed over 134 billion euros, including close to 50 billion in military aid. We cannot be doing less when we should be doing more. Where there's a will, there's a way. So I don't accept the argument that this or that has never been done before. I want us to find further financing solutions for Ukraine. The Ukrainians fight very bravely and with our support at every step of the way. Russia is an existential threat to us all. So I don't want to hear what we can't do. I want to discuss and act on what we can do. We should be the architects of creative solutions, not foot soldiers along well-trodden paths. I want this to be guiding principle for this mandate, which brings me to working with those we can. The EU has many partners around the world, but there are none that are as important as the United States. Some of us may not like everything our counterparts say or do there, but that's democracy. We have to deal with it. Transatlantic trade and investment supports more than 60 million jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. It accounts for 42% of our global GDP. We need America, and America needs us. But you have to listen to your friends too. Just as we want the United States to help stop Russian aggression in Europe, we have to understand America's core interests. China is a strategic competitor. They are increasingly assertive, globally present, and competitively so. Operating through confidence and hope, to borrow from Dominique Moisy. Many European countries have considerable interests in China or in trade with China. And the EU is still China's largest market to trade in. But we should not repeat the same mistakes with China that we made with Russia. Dependencies make us vulnerable. When we needed to, the EU proved it could untangle itself from Russia. So if we want to de-risk from China, we can. China's assertiveness has also shown us where the EU can pursue closer partnerships. Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and the others in the region, where many share our values and interests, from technology to defense. Closer to home, we can have more productive relationship with the United Kingdom. They are not in the EU, but they are still in Europe. And there is much we can still do. More cooperation on defense, for example, is vital and logical next step. Dear colleagues, for the first time in many years, we have positive news from the Middle East. The weakening of Iran, the fall of Assad regime, the release of hostages and ceasefire agreements between Israel and Hamas and Israel and Hezbollah, new leadership in Lebanon. Progress can be made. And the EU can have a role. If we are not there around the table, asking the right questions, pushing for inclusiveness, and championing democratic values, then who is? We are also the biggest donor, and this is too often unnoticed. Currently, the situation is extremely fragile and everything is interlinked. The chances of the new Lebanese leaders reforming the country depend on the persistence of the truce between Israel and Hezbollah. Clashes are still taking place in both Gaza and southern Lebanon. Israel's leadership is wavering on the return to two-state solution. And we are a long way from having all the important Palestinian political groups ready to recognize the state of Israel. Iran will try to restore the position it has lost. Syria's new leaders are certainly saying all the right words, but it is still too early to assess where the country is heading. Where we can help, we should. I have been discussing this in depth within the Aqaba format since last December, because the Middle East has been and will remain a very important region for Europe. They are our neighbors, and instability has an immediate effect on Europe, particularly through increases in migration and the threats of terrorism. Our contribution to the stability of the region is essential. This is why we continue to support the reconstruction process in Syria and Lebanon, alleviate the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, and redeploy our border assistance mission, EUBAM, in Rafah, allowing the transfer of individuals out of Gaza, including those in need of medical relief. But I want us to do more. With the Gulf, for example, there's a lot of potential, including in energy cooperation. And a new pact of Mediterranean can boost our relations with this region. Dear ambassadors, there are some regions where the EU can do much better. The majority of countries are reluctant to make the choice between autocracies opposing the West and the West itself. It was the same during the Cold War. Every country is guided by their own interests, not on whether they are the allies of the EU, United States, or China or Russia. This is true across the world. Look at Turkey and the Gulf states in peace mediation roles with their own strategic agendas and transactional approaches. The question is whether the EU should become transactional too. In many ways, it is time we should. Where we have common interests, there is a space of cooperation. Our recent agreements with Mercosur and Mexico are good examples of this. They are pragmatic, logical, and perfectly understandable. We should have more mutually beneficial projects like these. This is the spirit which we will take to India this year. The visit of the college is a chance to deepen the relationship that represents a quarter of a global population and GDP. At this historical juncture, we need to be honest and accept that we cannot expect the same from others as we do with our member states or allies. Every country's historical and cultural background is different. We will shape our policies, we will have tailor-made approach accordingly, be it in Africa, Latin America and Caribbean, Southeast Asia, or the Pacific region. We will assess how our interests align with those of our partners, but we are still Europe. We will fight for our companies to win public contracts, but never with questionable methods. The EU and our member states are still the largest global provider of official development aid, over 40% of the total amount. And this is a lot of money. When we spend it, we should be sure it reflects the EU's worth. The systematic violation of human and civil rights, UN votes in the support of autocracies that have declared themselves our enemies, is not space for cooperation or a basis we can do business from. Dear colleagues, it really is a pleasure to meet you all in person. And seeing you together only underlines that feeling. The feeling that I have that we can navigate through this period, not only by sticking to who we are, but because who we are. I grew up behind the Iron Curtain with no choices and no freedom. And when Estonia regained its independence, we had the chance to live a life full of freedom, democracy, and choices. A life with the European Union. I really know what we've got here, and we have to keep to it. We also got the responsibility to share that we have, play a geopolitical role, and grow this going forward. Your experience and skills are truly unmatched, and we need these skills to navigate through this period. I know that we can. We have clear understanding what we want to deliver, Ukraine's defense for Europeans' defense, maintaining and strengthening our alliances with like-minded partners, pursuing peace in Middle East, and nurturing mutually beneficial partnerships. And with the team that pulls together, we can deliver our priorities, grow our geopolitical role, and strengthen our greatest asset as the most predictable, reliable, and credible partner in the world. So let's do this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now in the good hands of the bureau. I understand that 3 colleagues are going to put 3 questions. First one is Francesca Di Mauro in Ivory Coast. Francesca, over to you. Eva is coming.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Callas. Very happy to see you here. So a question more on the economic sphere. So the College of Commissioners just adopted the competitiveness compass, and you've already alluded to, working with other partners. We also have the communication on foreign economic policy coming up and the clean industrial deal. So how can we protect and harness the global multilateral order, including the WTO, and engage with like-minded and all partners, as you just mentioned, to ensure European competitiveness and also shared prosperity for all who want to work with us? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very good question. I think what we see also in the global sphere, what we see the signals from United States withdrawing from multilateral organizations, and giving signals that they only look into America itself. I think it gives us an opportunity to play this role, because we see that everybody is looking at us, really. And what I meant in my speech as well is that we need to really put this in practice in the cooperation we have with third countries as well. We have our interests, we have our values, and we should stick to it. Also, not filling the void immediately, but really sticking to the principles that we have. And I see there's really opportunity to grow our geopolitical role as European Union, because we are the predictable partner, we are the reliable partner, but we are often taken for granted, and we shouldn't. I mean, with the global partners that we have, I think it's also much more dignified to have negotiations that are on the par with our interests. I mean, we also need something from those global partners, and we are offering something in return. So I think there's really an opportunity that we need to use here.
Thank you. And I have a second question from Rosario Bento Pais from Luanda, Angola. There she is.
Thank you very much, HRVP, for your hints this morning. I'm picking up on what you have mentioned about the geopolitical rivalries. In particular, you have mentioned exactly that US are our friends and partners, China a competitor, but how can exactly the EU jungle in between these geopolitical rivalries and maintaining its interests and being really a global actor and making these values, as you have mentioned, really at the top, and being able to, in fact, continue to have all these interests in this geopolitical world? Thank you.
Well, I think that this is exactly the opportunity how we should do this and keep our values and interests in mind using this situation. We are in area of geopolitical rivalries, that is very, very sure. But as I said, I mean, the countries around the world are not aligning themselves by saying that, you know, we are the allies of European Union or we are the allies of China or Russia. They are aligning themselves according to their interests and values. And this is what I mean by these comprehensive partnerships that we should have, really tailor-made for each country, understanding what are their fears, what are their worries, but also really sticking to who we are and what we represent, what are our values and interests as well, to have these comprehensive partnerships, not giving everything for granted. Because the one thing that I see, and many of you know, I mean, this accusation that, you know, double standards, but actually it is that the world doesn't really know, for example, regarding the Middle East, that we are the biggest supporter of Gaza. We are the biggest supporter of UNRWA, for example, providing the services to the Palestinians. So I think we need to put the European flag up more to really communicate, but show that we are the ones, and also in the partnerships that we have with third countries to represent what are our interests, that we don't give anything just for granted, but we also want to see the respect for the interests that we have, and we have. And I think there we can also grow our geopolitical power.
Thanks a lot. And then the final question, I'm looking for Roland. Oh, there he is, all the way from Madagascar, Antananarivo.
Good morning, High Representative, Vice President. And as this is our first joint meeting all together, let us, welcome you very warmly to Brussels. So a little question on security. You've already touched upon it, of course. It's on Ukraine. We sadly get to another anniversary of the Russian aggression on Ukraine. And I wanted to ask you, this conflict has upset Europe's security, but also more globally, the prosperity and the stability of the world. It has also threatened, not only Europe, but all the regions of this planet. So how can Europe, we ourselves, you, ensure to work with others towards a lasting solution that would actually restore peace and security order in Europe, but also more widely, and you also touched upon it, take initiatives for the wider region, the Middle East, Gaza, Syria, and so on, to restore hope and better lives. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I think when we talk about Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, it is going against all the principles of UN Charter, really. So one country attacks another and tries to take it by force. And therefore, we really need to put the pressure on the one who started this war, which is Russia, because they can also end this war. And it has global complications. I mean, the whole war, because it's a so big one. And also the outcome of this war has also global implications. And that means that whether the United Nations Charter is respected or not. Because if Russia takes what he wants, then all the aggressors around the world, or would-be aggressors around the world, are carefully taking notes. Okay, aggression pays off. So I might also go for my neighbor's territories, because then we end up in the world where might makes right. And actually, for a majority of the countries in the world, this is a big threat. Like it was Paul Henry Spaak who said that there are only small countries in the world, and the countries who haven't realized that they are small countries yet. So I mean, UN Charter is really the tool to protect small countries in the world, which there are many. And that's why it is important that we really together put the pressure on Russia, and Russia can't achieve its goals because it's dangerous for everybody. I think the messages that we get from the United States regarding this recently, I think they're good, putting the pressure on Russia to end this war, and we need to do more in this regard, because it is also, regarding China, for example, if United States is not getting Russia right, they are not getting China right either. This is all very much interconnected. If we see Iran, North Korea, Russia working very closely together, this is what we are up to. And if you talk with the countries around the world, then they see the same threats everywhere. So it is really existential for the multilateral rules-based order to function. But there's a lot to do, of course, and we need to do this together. We need to explain this to the countries that see this picture differently. Because they are buying into Russian narratives. Russia is very good at this. We really need to show what is at stake here, really. And of course, why I'm talking about also growing our geopolitical power is that if we see, and we have had now several meetings with the foreign ministers, but also the commissioners, if we see the whole map of the world, and we took and really mapped the countries where we had high-level visits of either presidents of European Commission, European Council, the High Representative, foreign ministers, prime ministers, presidents of European countries, then we see that we have a lot of loopholes. Whereas we compare this to Russia or China or even when it comes to Africa, to Turkey, then they are going and speaking to all the countries in Africa every single year, having really high level visits. So we are 27. I mean, 27 commissioners. We are also 27 prime ministers, presidents, foreign ministers. How can we not cover the whole of the world? And so we have mapped this, and I'm glad to say that also the commissioners as well as the foreign ministers are very much willing to really cover the world to grow our geopolitical influence, because it's not only what we bring, but it's also the attention that we give to these countries. I mean, one prime minister of country from Asia told me that, we have a lot of attention for you, but you never have attention for us. I mean, and this is a small thing we can give because we have 27, the leverage that we really want to use. And there it is also important that we explain this, what is going on and how we see and our interests and values all across the world. So I really believe that we can do this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues. So you will have ample opportunity to talk to the High Representative later in the week. I'll be around interacting with a lot of you. And then we have a wrap-up session on Friday where I will take all your feedback, the good and the bad. But so, I hope you stay tuned for all the changes, as Eva said, and enjoy the beautiful weather. That is not always the case, but we put it up especially for you. Have a great week.
Enjoying the nice weather by being in this really dark room inside. But yes, I'm looking forward to the session where we have, I know that you have a lot of questions also regarding different management issues. So we have the closed session so we can really do the question and answer.